I'm Sam from Cultaholic Wrestling, and this is Graded for Friday Night SmackDown, where I take a look at the show segment by segment and award each a bit of grade from A+ to F. Now, the Royal Rumble is tomorrow night, which means one thing and one thing only. Tonight is going to be a hell of a lot of setup for the Rumble, and we're probably going to see people get thrown over the top rope all night as Michael Cole explains to us the rules of the Royal Rumble. So yeah, without any further ado, I guess let's crack on with it. Hit the intro. And we kick things off this week with Daniel Bryan already in the ring. Oh my god, it's going to be another busy week, isn't it? Bryan says that he's accomplished a lot in his career, but he's never won a Rumble. And winning the Rumble is important because, you know, it's another massive WrestleMania moment that you're setting yourself up for. And he says, I don't know how many WrestleMania moments I have left. He says whether he's number 1 or number 30, he will be ready before he's cut off by AJ Styles and Omos. Bryan, of course, asks AJ and Omos what the hell they're doing here before AJ holds the microphone up to Omos, and Omos says it's the quarterly brand-to-brand invitation. It's just an excuse to get Raw people in so that we can have a big moment pre-Rumble, basically. Styles hypes his own chances in the Rumble before insinuating there's something a little bit retiree about the way Daniel Bryan's dressed in a suit, and he's talking about, you know, he might not have many Mania moments left. Bryan takes offense to this. He challenges AJ to a match tonight to prove who the better man is. So AJ accepts, shoves Bryan. Bryan then gets on the mic and he's like, if you were a real man, you know, you'd leave Omos backstage later and face me one-on-one. But either way, whatever you choose to do, I'll kick your ass. I'm going to give this one a B. It was a perfectly fine promo here from AJ and Bryan, and there were little themes of, you know, that retirement flavor peppered throughout. It's 99.9% just fluff to build to the Rumble, I'd imagine. And I roll pretty hard at the fact that we've got a brand-to-brand invitational happening. But you know what? It's going to be a good enough match later. It should be fairly exciting. So let's just reserve our eye rolling a bit until we see what happens. So we cut backstage to Kayla Braxton, who's with Bayley, and Kayla asks Bayley about losing the obstacle course challenge to Bianca Belair last week, and Bayley just directs attention to the fact that she beat Belair down afterwards rather than losing the challenge itself. She says that going off Bianca Belair's WWE Chronicles, she seems to have ran from every single problem in her life, so when Bayley's done with her, she'll crawl back into her hole. And then we go to the ring for Bayley versus Bianca Belair, just like that. So Belair keeps her cool, but Bayley gets an early cheap shot in and just starts targeting that shoulder that she injured last week in the post-match attack. She taunts Belair with a ponytail, which gets Belair fired up to the point she's fighting back. She almost puts Bayley away with a standing moonsault before the break, but Bayley manages to get her foot on the rope. When we come back, though, Belair is in firm control again until Bayley's able to get a cheap shot, drop her, and start working over that sore shoulder. There's a huge knee from Bayley before a massive elbow off the top, right to the back of the shoulder blades, like right across almost the base of the neck there. But Belair will not be put down. She just bridges straight up and out of the pin. Belair then goes for the Grand Slam, but her arm gives out because she's just been absolutely murked by Bayley throughout this entire match. But then very quickly, she lines up for the KOD, hits it, and picks up the win. Post-bell and on the ramp, Kayla Braxton quickly pops out to have a word with Belair, and Belair's like, you know what, I'm not going to apologize for being me, I'm just going to keep on being myself. I've now proven myself completely, I feel, here against a formidable foe in Bayley, and then she promises to win the Rumble. I'm going to give this one a B. Belair is such a good underdog in this feud against Bayley, and Bayley's just sort of falling into a lot of traps here as somebody who should know a lot better. Like, Belair was able to just turn it on and off throughout the match whenever she felt like it, and Bayley seems to be neglecting the fact that there's a lot more to Bianca Belair than maybe she realizes. The targeting of the arms throughout was great by Bayley, but what a win for Belair here. It really feels like she's finally arrived. It was like a big moment feeling here when she won. Next up, we go to Corbin versus Dominic Mysterio, and as Corbin's making his entrance, he's attacked from behind by cheeky young Dominik. Just straight up beats him down, throws him into, you know, those side barricades as you're making your entrance down the ramp, just throws him into one of those, and then we go to a break. When we come back, Ray is on commentary and the match is about to start. So Corbin in the opening stages of this one is very much playing the Tom to Dominik's Jerry. Dominik is just running circles around him and Corbin is being planted and thrown and he's not quite able to get there in time. He's falling all over himself. Dominik is really putting some distance between them. After a flurry of strikes that send him to the outside, though, Corbin gets back in the ring, plants Dominik, and then just starts laying in the strikes while taunting Ray the entire time. Dominik does manage to take control back again as Corbin is fighting to his feet. He's able to trip Corbin into a 619 position, but when he goes for it, Corbin catches him short. Corbin then goes for a powerbomb, only to get ranted into the corner, and Dominik just starts reversing absolutely everything Corbin's doing until he catches him into the end of days position, plants him, 1, 2, 3. Corbin then attempts to attack Ray post-bell, only for it to get turned back around and for Corbin to look like a bit of an idiot. Now, I'm only going to give this one a C+, as it just felt like more story stuff. I get, we need to build this whole thing, but I don't know if we need to see it each week if we're still at this stage. I think maybe give it a week or so between encounters, but, if they've got to do it, they've got to do it. But at the same time, I don't know, seeing the same matchups each week gets just a little bit too repetitive. But that's not to say there isn't a spark there. I do enjoy the idea of Dominic Mysterio being sort of naive in his early wrestling sort of forays, which is where we still are. And, he's got a lot to learn, and Corbin is a formidable foe, and Corbin should, be the one coming out on top. And Dominik needs to, learn strategy, and he needs to really put his time in to defeat him. And that's where we're going with this, I'm assuming, but depends how long it takes to get there. We then go to Big E and Sonya backstage, and Big E asks her if she can tell him his Royal Rumble entry number. He hands her $1 and promises her that he can also bribe her, not just with that $1, but with an Arby's voucher as well. Miz and Morrison then emerge. They're looking for Adam Pearce. Sonya tells them that he's not here this week before Big E starts asking what they're doing here because, you don't belong here. You're not on this brand. And Miz essentially teases a cash-in. When Big E tries to leave, they kind of taunt him, and then a fight breaks out as we cut away. We then go to Sasha backstage, who is just walking along. She's in like a black dress. She's got a title on. She's just, walking along the corridor. Kalisto pops up and he's like, "You're looking good," and all this stuff. And then Reggie pops up, and Reggie's got a bottle of wine that he says is a gift for Sasha. So Sasha's being quite nice to Reggie, and she's, just kind of buttering him up just a little bit before he tells her that, the bottle of wine's from Carmella, and it's going to be the perfect wine to accompany the feeling of loss that she's going to face after losing her title at Royal Rumble. Still buttering him up a little bit, Sasha's like, "Well, you know what? I could maybe use your services. You could help me buy some wine." And he's like, "Yeah, I could do that." And she's like, "Yeah, for Carmella when she loses." And then she hands him back the bottle of wine that he gave her as the gift, and she's like, "Here, take that. I think you're going to need a drink." We then go to Nakamura backstage, who's just walking along when he's accosted by Sami Zayn and his camera crew. And Sami's like, hey Nakamura, remember, all those good times when we were like teammates and buddies and stuff? And yeah! He says it's about time that Sami got something out of this relationship, though, after it ended. Maybe Nakamura should help Sami out. Maybe that would be good for Nakamura, because Cesaro's off doing his own thing. He's not going to want to concern himself with you anymore. But me, Sami Zayn, I'd love you, Nakamura. Like we're linked together. Everything we've done, since you've come in here, and he's just sort of really, really laying it on thick. So he asks Nakamura to watch his back, and Nakamura's like, "Sami, look, I like you, but you can go to hell." We then go to a satellite showdown between Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens, and what a doozy this is. Owens says that as far as he's concerned, he's already beaten Roman twice, and there is nothing that will keep him down in this last man standing match at the Rumble. Heyman then jumps in, calls Owens disrespectful before Roman asks Owens about his family. He asks him about his dad and whether his dad was a smart man, and Owens tells him, if you know what's good for you, you'll leave my family out of this. Roman just keeps going though. He runs Owens' dad down for not teaching his son the correct life lessons. He calls Owens a pawn and says that he is the king on the board. Roman tells him that on Sunday it'll not be anything personal, it's just Owens' fault. Owens is a fool for thinking he can beat him, and Owens' dad was a fool, and Owens' grandfathers that he brought up very emotionally last week and whose initials he has tattooed on his fingers, they're fools too. Owens once again tells him, come on, you've had your fun, stop it now, just stop, you don't want to do this. Roman says that Owens' family will see him as a disgrace, and when he finally meets his grandfathers again, they're going to ask him, why didn't you do what we wanted you to do? Why didn't you recognize him as your tribal chief? Owens then just explodes. He calls Roman an insecure bully, and then he's just going off about the fact that he's true to himself, he's true to his family, and he will be the last man standing no matter what, come the end of the Royal Rumble. And while this is happening, Roman just cuts off his camera feed. This gets an A, a great little bit of foreboding from Roman here, and Owens just absolutely killing it emotionally here. Like, the guy is so good when he's working emotionally, when he's wrestling emotionally, when he's delivering promos emotionally. The guy's just a big ball of emotion, and he's able to capitalize on it so well. He obviously got super irked by Roman bringing his family into it, and Roman knows exactly what he's doing. He's got under the skin, so this match should be a hell of a match. And finally, we go to our main event of the evening, which is Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles. And when AJ makes his entrance, Omos is standing with him at the top of the ramp, and then he walks backstage. So it's AJ versus Bryan, one-on-one, nobody there to interfere, except Cesaro, who's on commentary. So this one starts with Bryan just trying to tie AJ up, and AJ actually gets outpaced here and just really gets his arm worked over by Bryan in the early stages. He dials it up and brings the fight, but ultimately Bryan drops him again, and as Bryan's about to go to the top rope, Sami Zayn's music hits, and down comes Sami with his camera crew. Now this distraction allows AJ to send Bryan to the floor, careening off the top rope, and then into the ring steps on the outside. When we come back from the break, AJ is very much leading the charge here, but Bryan is able to capitalize and, fight back in little places. It's not quite, 50-50, it's more 80-20 leaning toward AJ. He even takes a running punt at Bryan's thigh, and it's just a meaty sounding connection before he locks in the calf crusher. Bryan gets the break, but Sami starts screaming and ranting at the referee about, "Oh, you're going to do your job now, referee?" And he's really bitter that the referee screwed him. AJ comes springing off the rope for the phenomenal forearm, but Bryan catches it into an armbar, rolls through into a yes lock, and then Big E's music hits. Down comes Big E, and Sami Zayn starts to panic. So E gets down to commentary area, takes off his entrance jacket, takes off his title, and then just decks Sami Zayn and hurls him toward where Cesaro was sat. Cesaro manages to dodge him, but then a little bit of a brawl breaks out. Bryan then dives to the outside to sort of break up the brawl and wipe them all out. AJ takes charge, but Sami, having been knocked over by Bryan, storms the ring, attacks him, and the match is thrown out as a DQ, obviously. A fight then fully breaks out as you'd expect, and then Nakamura comes down, because why not? And there's just more and more fighting. Nakamura and Cesaro kind of have a bit of an awkward face-off though, but don't fight each other. And when we come back, it has been turned from a singles match into a six-man tag, and the teams are Big E, Bryan, and Nakamura against Sami, AJ, and Cesaro. So I'm probably going to have to refer to my notes quite a bit through this one, simply as it gets crazier and crazier as it goes on. Nakamura and Cesaro start off, though, with Sami getting in and getting trapped in the face corner for good measure. Sami, however, turns it round and just lays it in real hard on Daniel Bryan's leg, and Bryan goes hurtling toward the heel corner where AJ on the outside just grabs him and starts slamming that knee into the ring post. Such a heel. Such a nasty man, AJ. When we come back, Bryan is struggling to stand. AJ's still targeting the leg, but he manages to climb all the way up to the top and hits a missile dropkick, even though now he's pretty much obliterated. Big E gets in though, Cesaro gets in, and both of these guys just start absolutely slapping meat off one another until, of course, why not? Let's just add more to the mix. Miz and Morrison come down. So they attack Nakamura, they jump Big E in the ring, the match is thrown out as a DQ, and then out comes Otis, and then there's more fighting, and Otis levels them both with a double caterpillar. And then when we come back from the ad break, it's now a 9-man handicap tag match. Yeah. So Bryan's knee is pretty much done for here. Miz locks in a figure 4, and Bryan just has to punch his way out of it. He's just punching Miz in the face until he lets go. But the heels, blood in the water, the heels just start targeting him and absolutely take him down. As Bryan's scrambling to get the hot tag, the heels jump all of the faces on the apron, and everything appears to be lost until Sheamus's music hits. Finally, down comes Sheamus, stands on the face side of the apron, tags in, and absolutely cleans house. Things break down again with everybody sort of brawling and getting some featured time to hit some signature moves, but ultimately Sheamus hits the bro kick on Sami to pick up the win. Post-bell though, the heels are straight on top of him, beating him down, because of course it's the Rumble, and if you can take out anybody who may be in the Rumble, your chances are better, aren't they? So, oh no, what's gonna happen? All the faces are, they're getting beaten down, those nasty, horrible heel. Braun! Out he comes. Braun Strowman's back, everybody. Why not? Braun comes down, absolutely demolishes everybody, stands tall, and we go off air. So this was utterly insane, but somehow they made it enjoyable. They pulled it off. And it just worked. I mean, it was a lot of shoehorning, you know, the standard Rumble stuff in there, the go-home show stuff. But it was less, you know, oh, I'm going to throw you over the rope. No, I'm going to throw you over the rope. No, I'm going to throw you over the rope. It was more just, you got like the energy of a Rumble here where anything could happen. The match was just constantly dialing it up and the drama and everybody and the dives to the outside and stuff like that. It just captured, I feel, the feeling of the Rumble match rather than being so ham-fisted as, oh, you go over the top rope, and Michael Cole goes, that's right, everybody, on Sunday at the Royal Rumble match, of you know, explaining the rules. Now, I think I'm just going to have to give it an A, because straight up, I enjoyed this. I thought while it was a little clunky in places, it got everything across really well. I think I'm really excited to see these guys all face off in the Rumble. Braun looked great here at the end as well, but will him standing tall on the go-home show hamper his chances at the Rumble? I think time will tell, but maybe we already know the answer to that, given that he stood tall and you know the crack with that. Overall, SmackDown gets a B+ this week. You know, for a show that, one, has its own stories, two, usually overruns to a point where you've got to shoehorn as much in as possible, three, had to set up the Rumble. It was a lovely, strong offering here from SmackDown, which, as I said, is usually crammed to the gill at the best of times. They even got a lengthy Roman Reigns Kevin Owens promo in it, like that did the job perfectly. Loved Belair versus Bayley, loved the intensity of the main event, and I cannot wait to see Roman versus Owens, but all this is going to unfold, of course, tomorrow night at the Royal Rumble. There will be a live stream for the Royal Rumble, and we'll also be doing all of the usual content surrounding the event itself. But yes, before I go, just one little question for you all. In the spirit of Rumble season, I want you to leave your answers below in one comment. Who is going to win the men's, and who is going to win the women's Royal Rumble matches this year? But that has been graded for Friday Night SmackDown. What did you guys think of this week's show? Let me know in the comments below. But as always, I've been Sam from Cultaholic Wrestling. Stay safe, and I'll see you soon.